Hi friends, and welcome back to Tingmas Day 2, where I watch 5 new release Christmas movies on Netflix and tell you my thoughts on them. So day 1 was my review for Love Hard, which I really enjoyed. I forgot to mention what my rating was in the video. Thought it was fun and also had some pretty good representation in it. So I gave that movie a 3.5 stars out of 5. And then now I'll be giving a review of the second movie that I watched for this series, which was A Castle for Christmas. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into the review. So A Castle for Christmas is a new release Netflix romantic comedy film. It stars Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes. Brooke Shields is, of course, a very prolific, famous model who is also known for some of her... What is she known? I feel like Brooke Shields is just someone, like, you know, but I can't think of, like, off the bat what kind of movie she was in. Oh, actually, Brooke Shields was in another Christmassy, wintry movie that I really like called Chalet Girl. She was in this, like, really controversial movie when she was younger called, like, Pretty Baby, and then she was also I think well known for this movie called like The Blue Lagoon. These were mostly like 70s and 80s movies. I was excited to see her in again another romantic comedy movie, but this time in the lead role instead of as a supporting role. And Carrie Elwes, who I'm sure the role you probably will know him best for is Wesley in The Princess Bride, which of course is a very iconic romantic movie. So really excited to see him in there. He's also very funny as well. He was in Robin Hood Men in Tights. And then another movie that I remember hearing about him being in like somewhat recently was this movie called The 5-Year Engagement. So, you know, these are people who are seasoned actors, especially in like romantic and comedic movies. So I was very excited to see the lineup with the cast there. And the premise of the movie like just sounded cute. You know, Brooke Shields is playing this best-selling author, like a very, very, very successful author who has this best-selling series called the Emma Gale series that spanned for like a decade or two. Very successful. This kind of all kicks off when she releases her most recent book in her series, and she kills off Winston, who is Emma Gale's I think like main love interest, which causes a huge uproar. Her fans are pissed about it. I'm assuming that like kind of how they implied it in the backstory. So she's also divorced from her husband. And I think like I'm guessing quite a bit of the series and the story was kind of inspired by her relationship with her now ex-husband. And I'm guessing Winston was, or at least people assumed was based off her ex-husband. So when she decided to kill him off, people feel like it's kind of like a reaction to like the divorce that she had gone through and things like that. But you know, regardless, like people are super not happy about it. Her agent's freaking out that like her career is going to be ruined. And so she tries to do some like damage control by going on to the Drew Barrymore show. And, you know, after being asked like, okay, like, why did you do this? This is so like disappointing. Like everyone loved this character. And she kind of has a meltdown on national television. Not super great for her. But she does have, kind of recalls, like, she's thinking, so I'm guessing, like, with all the uproar going on, she's kind of, like, stuck in a rut, trying to figure out, like, what she wants to do, but more importantly, she, like, wants to get away and, like, let all the bad press die down while she kind of, like, regroups and, like, figures out what her next move is going to be. So it gets her to think about, like, her family history. So she is actually, in the movie, she's a first-generation child of a Scottish immigrant. Her dad's family immigrated to New York City when her father was about, like, I think in the movie they said about, like, 10 years old. And her family has close ties to this castle called Dunbar, which is in Scotland. And so she decides, I'm going to go visit. This was, you know, something that she had planned to do with her father, go visit this castle before he passed away, unfortunately. So with Christmas coming up and everything, she feels like, you know, this makes sense. This will be a nice, like, quiet place for me to, like, go visit, get away from. I'm pretty sure no one's going to know me there. So she tells her daughter her plan, and she jets off to Scotland.
You became a writer because of Grandpa. Used to sit and listen to his stories about the castle in Scotland. Haven't you always wanted to go see it?
Yeah.
When she gets there, this castle is located near this village, like a very, very small village. Gorgeous, gorgeous scenery of like Scotland. Like Scotland is definitely on my travel bucket list. I so very badly want to visit. And it's just like, they definitely give you some really beautiful, beautiful shots of the Scottish countryside. Like, to like quote like my partner's sister when we were watching this, she was like, this is the kind of place that would like cure my depression. Definitely would agree with that. So she's like going through, and she's initially puts herself up at this inn, and when she gets there, she of course gets immediately recognized by the people who work there. So she meets I did like one of the things, so there were, kind of spoiler alert, I didn't love this movie, but there were definitely like good moments in it, and I did enjoy that they did have like casual representation, which I'm definitely a big fan of, especially in things like just kind of lighthearted movies like this one. So the first person she meets is Maisie, who is one of the employees at the inn that she's staying at. She is a Black Scotswoman.
Well, that's up for sale.
Which is really great to see. I feel like we don't get a whole lot of representation of Black people, like UK Black people in general. So that was like really nice to see that. And then also, I guess this inn is connected to like a pub or something, and like she also meets a knitting group which has like an eclectic group of people in it. But like the nice thing about it is that they are like, when she's like, oh, yeah, you probably must not be happy with me. They're like, oh no, like, Winston sucked. Like, I'm glad you killed him off. I'm surprised you didn't kill him off sooner, like that kind of thing. So that was like really nice. So she feels like immediately like welcomed and comfortable. Of course, like she decides to go off and like visit the castle. Oh, I forgot to mention. So she also meets at this inn. This is where she like runs before she like even enters. This is like the first time she runs into Carrie Elwes's character, whose name is Miles. This is one of my biggest gripes in this movie, but like pretty much like the moment they meet, they had like, she like trips and falls, and like he catches her, and like they're just like, super close for like really no apparent reason, and they're just like staring into each other's eyes.
It wouldn't be the worst thing.
Then like, of course, like this is supposed to like, foreshadow the romance that's about to come. But like, again, it was just so like contrived that it didn't feel natural. And like, that was unfortunately like kind of a recurring issue that I felt that happened throughout the movie, is that the romance was full of like these super contrived, really inorganic moments.
You could have locked the door.
It's my house.
For now.
That like just didn't really help to make like the romance like the most believable, or like things are only happening just to make the plot happen. Like it's not something that like felt realistic. It wasn't like and it wasn't like the type of movie, like in my Love Hard review, like one of the things I really liked about Love Hard was that there were quite a few moments where like the movie had no problem like poking fun at itself, calling out characters, or like doing things that tend to happen a lot in romantic comedies that like just don't make sense, or like are just kind of weird, and like just like it just like wouldn't happen in real life. So unrealistic. And like this movie like did not care. It was gonna make it. It was no like, I feel like that's something that would have like really improved the movie, is if it would have been a little bit more okay with like poking fun at itself, or like or again like kind of calling out characters for like doing something silly or something like that. Because like, let's be real, if you just like tripped and like some stranger caught you, like I don't care how cute this stranger is, like are you really gonna stand like this close to that person and like for like more than like 2 seconds? Like, it's just weird. And then like also like Carrie Elwes's character like immediately takes like an interest in her again for like seemingly no reason. Like, I get it, like Brooke Shields is gorgeous, like she's like, shoot, she looks great for her age, and like so I get it, like I but you can admire from afar without taking like a weirdly close interest in her. And like, and that happens again where she like, gets settled in at the inn, and she goes to the castle for the first time, and she sees him again and again, and then like like the castle to like help like make money for herself, because castles are pretty expensive to upkeep. They're like doing tours, and she happens to come when like a tour has already ended and they're not going to be doing another one very soon. And so he's suddenly like, you know, his employee Thomas, who by the way wears a kilt like in every single scene throughout the entire movie, which like I thought was great. I'm like, look, it's probably definitely cheesy, and I'm sure most Scotsmen are not walking around in kilts all day long, but it was still like a nice like costume touch to the movie, which I thought was cool. Like, I loved it. He rocked that kilt he rocked his kilts in every scene. So he, you know, they're all like, oh yeah, no more tours, and then suddenly you know, Miles, which we later found out is like actually like this duke of this castle, is like, oh yeah, no problem, I will give you the private tour of this castle, like no problem. And I'm like, why? Like, you don't know this woman. Like, I get that she's cute, but like, how does I don't know. It just like it didn't really make a lot of sense. He's giving her this tour, going pretty well. And like one thing that like she talked about is that she was so like her family, so her grandfather's family used to actually work as groundskeepers for this castle. So her grandfather apparently at one point when he was really young like sneaked into the castle and like tried to carve his name into one of the doors to prove that he was able to like sneak in or something like that. She herself, like through her family, has like a very close personal history with this castle. And so like while he's giving the tour, he like gets distracted by something, and she decides like it's appropriate for her to sneak up into a like, you know, there's a section where they have like that little like bar with like the rope on it that's like, hey, you know, don't go up further. She decides to freaking sneak up into this into the part that's like sectioned off for like no visitors.
I have a little family history in this place.
Which I thought was like pretty disrespectful, because like especially for like these really old historical monuments, the reason why that area is probably sectioned off is because it's like delicate, and if you're running around in it, you could damage the preservation of this place. And I was like, I didn't like that. Later, like, we find out that the castle, like, the Duke, he actually doesn't have, like, a lot of money, and he's barely able, like, he's very close to getting foreclosed on this castle that's been in his family for literally generations. So he's, like, super determined to keep this castle, and his like lawyer or like real estate agent or whoever is like, dude, I've tried really hard, but like we got this like sale offer and I really think you should take it. Turns out Sophie had put in that offer, and then that's when like the tension starts between Sophie and Miles.
Your Highness.
Technically, it's your grace.
I can think of a few other names I'd call you.
He also like puts together this like super ridiculous contract.
90-day escrow till Christmas. You'll move in now.
Are you moving out?
No.
What?
We later find out that like his job, he's really trying to just like, he's trying to drive her away.
The 5th Duke died in that pretty bed.
Yeah.
A deposit will get us through Christmas. Meanwhile, we make a life so miserable, she'll realise her mistake and leave. So that's kind of like the main conflict of the movie, and we go from there. There weren't a whole lot of things I loved about this movie, so I'll start with those first. The first thing I did like about this movie is that I do like the fact that we did have older protagonists. I do think it's really good and important to promote that you can find love at any age in life. You can find love, you know, after divorce, when you're like well into your like middle age, you know, that sort of thing, senior citizen age, honestly, even. So I thought that was like, it was really nice to see that. Again, I really like some of the casual representation that they had. Like I mentioned, the character of Maisie, she's a Black Scotswoman. And then you also have another person in this like knitting group, which by the way, I really like the knitting group. I like the cute little friendship they like all built together. It was super cute. Within the knitting group, you had another character whose name is Angus, and you know, they had mentioned like, oh, his like husband passed away unfortunately, and he's, you know, that's why he like he joined the knitting group to, you know, get some comfort, but he also doesn't really talk either, and that was like, you know, kind of sad, but like also again like kind of sweet.
at the same time, that they're really just all there to like have a good time knitting in this pub and like supporting each other, which I thought was great. Thomas was also like such a fun character. He was pretty sassy, doesn't have a problem like calling out his boss or like his bullshit. I did also actually really like that whole storyline with Sophie and like, you know, really going into like her connection with like the castle and why it means so much to her. And
These are your roots, dear.
so that was like, I thought like that was, you know, like very sweet and added like a, you know, bit more heart to the movie, which was really nice. And again, like I feel like this is like one of those movies that it has like cozy vibes, in my opinion. I like, you know, this is like a movie that I feel like you should watch. It's a really nice watch for like aesthetics. You know, if you're like, wow, I really wish that like I could hang out in the Scottish countryside and, you know, around Christmas and like see how beautiful everything is and enjoy all of that. Like, you know, this is like kind of a nice movie to like get you in that mood. Or sorry, to get you in that like mood. Again, I feel like you should mostly watch it for vibes if you're gonna be watching it. Like you're feeling down, like that's usually when I like, this is the like usually when I watch these types of movies that do not have a really good plot, and again have like a lot of very annoying tropes where so many moments are like very obviously manufactured or only there because we need to have the plot moving in a certain way. I hate that. If you are looking for, if you're like feeling, this is usually when I watch those types of movies where like I'm feeling like down and depressed and like I just want to like escape somewhere that feels like cozy and nice and like problems are very tiny compared to what I'm going through like myself. I would definitely recommend it for that, as long as you're okay with ignoring most of the kind of ridiculous plot. I didn't like how inorganic the romance felt. I didn't like a lot of moments that only would have happened if, you know, because this was like a romantic comedy movie and it had to be set up this way in order for it to be a romantic comedy. I didn't feel like there was like a whole lot of chemistry between Brooke Shields and Carrie Ellis, to be honest. Like they weren't like bad together. But I wasn't like, wow, I like super ship these two. While it was like cute, you can definitely tell like this is a very like clean, dressed up, idealized version of Scotland. So, and I'm sure like they did play into like some amount of stereotypes. Like I'm sure actual Scottish people probably watched parts of that movie and were like, we don't do that. So bottom line, I recommend it for vibes. If you want to escape, and like that's what I like, you know, that's a big reason why I like to watch romantic comedies, is like, for weirdly enough for me, like romantic comedies feel more like an escape than like fantasy movies. This kind of movie fell like very much like in the middle for me, where like at times I was like, yeah, I am like escaped. Like I love being here in this like Scottish countryside and meeting some like very nice, like kind of quirky people. Like I said, the knitting group was awesome. I loved them. But at the same time, there was a lot of like, wow, that was super uncomfortable to watch. Cringe. So I gave this movie like a 2-star rating. Like it wasn't the worst. It's just like, it wasn't the best either. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my review of this movie. Please keep an eye out for other Tingmas reviews that I will be doing leading up to Christmas. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, you can hit that subscribe button, and I'll hope to see you in the next video. Bye!